You know, people take things for granted. Christianity for granted, Christ for granted. Sometimes I hear people say, look at Africa. The churches are full. And of course, the churches are full. And then there is poverty. Yeah, there is. And they say, go to Europe. Nobody goes to church. The churches are empty. But they are developed. And then they talk about Christianity's oppression. And when people are talking, sometimes you wonder, are they thinking? Because if you say the churches are there and they are empty, how did they get to be there? It means there was a time everybody was going to church. Now they don't go, but there was a time everybody was going. That's why they are there. They can't be empty if they were not built in the first place. So why? What happened when the churches were there? The civilization of Europe is entirely, totally predicated on the presence and the civilizing effect of Christianity. Without Christianity, Europe would be barbaric. Everything from their music, from their art, from science, from all the inventors, almost every scientific discovery was made by somebody who was a Christian or a churchman. Every great art piece, every great sculpture, every great discovery in the church age of Europe was the foundation of civilization. In him was life, and the life was the civilization of people. Now you may say, so what about Africa? Christianity is in Africa, yes. But African Christianity has a problem. It has allowed so much of African traditional worldviews to sit on top of Christianity. So although we call it church, most of the time it is African traditional religion operating in the church world. But the mindset of Christ has not taken over the African. We are still back where we used to be. But the day that the word becomes our life and our light, massive transformation will take place. Because Christ is the enlightenment of nations. Is the enlightenment. Because, sometimes people complain. They say, look, the churches are the problem. And they say all these prophets and all of these. And the churches are not the problem. African traditional religion is the problem. What is happening is the churches, instead of living the Christian life, have borrowed African traditional religion and practicing it in the name of Christianity. What we used to do with psychics and mediums and people who are telling us our future, we now do it in the church. People can't think. People don't understand. Whatever a man sows, that shall he reap. We think somehow we can avoid reaping if we sow the bad thing. But the Jesus teaching says, you sow, you reap. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. If you give foolishness, you get foolishness. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. If you give ignorance, you're going to get a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over. We cannot be stupid and think that miracles will erase our stupidity. The blood of Jesus does not wipe away stupidity and foolishness. In him was life. The life of Christ is the enlightenment. Christianity is not just going to church and praying. If you check Jesus Christ, much of his work was teaching. He worked miracles. He prayed. But the bulk of his work was teaching. The bulk of the work of the apostles was teaching. The bulk of the work of the early church was teaching. They would teach all night. We go for all night prayer. They go for all night teaching. Jesus was in the desert with people for 3 days and 3 nights. They never ate. What was he doing? He wasn't working miracles. He wasn't praying for anybody. He was teaching and teaching and teaching and teaching, because he is the word. In him is life. As people receive his word, they receive life and they receive light, enlightenment. The African church must align with the teachings of Jesus, because it is when we take his teachings, then we understand how to use little things. We get talent and we work with it and we multiply it. That's what he taught. He says, if a tree is not bearing fruit, cut it down. We say, if a tree is not bearing fruit, fence it. If Jesus was your employer, you would cry. He says, if you're not producing results, fire him. We will say, no, he's my cousin, keep him. Jesus says no. And that's what Europe embraced. They embrace the teachings of Jesus. He who does not work must not eat. Bible. Because the more we embrace his word, the more we become enlightened. He transforms us from base living to purposeful living, to victorious living, to overcoming living, to becoming masters and champions over the creation he has invested to us. So that instead of living in our house, in our country, it rains, light off. It rains. The rain comes, it's spoiling our farm. It doesn't rain, our farm is not producing. Whether rain or shine, it's not working. We have rivers, we cannot make irrigation. But if we just follow Jesus, then the little we have, we enhance it and make it better. If we follow the teaching of Jesus, we don't even need collateral for anything, because we will trust and be honest so much. You don't need guarantee for anything. Your word is your bond. Jesus says, let your yes be yes, your no be no. Add nothing, don't swear. Just, I will do it, I do it. I won't do it, I won't do it. You give me the money, I keep it for you. And if we do that, can you imagine the amount of wealth we can build by being honest? By being honest. Simply, I believe the most valuable commodity in any business transaction is trust. When your word is dependable. And how do we build it? By submitting our will to Jesus. And say, I don't feel like doing it, but because he said I must do it, I will do it. We build a community of trustworthy people who can now exchange goods without money. And trust becomes our currency. You don't need working capital, you just need trust. Dependability. And there will be the light. There will be the enlightenment. Christianity is based on Jesus the Word and his words, which produce life, and in which life there is enlightenment and civilization.